Welcome to the Two Literal Podcast, where we're talking all things fantasy, romantasy, romance, and dark romance books. It could be the latest releases, timeless classics, book news, and anything in between. So grab a drink, some snacks, maybe a book, and if we're live, a phone to call in, because Two Literal is on.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Two Literal. I am Tashee and this is Ricki. And we also have our new favorite guest, Jazz, with us as we cover the Solaria series. But as usual, we're going to start with what are you reading or what special events are going on, Ricki?
Special events. I don't know if we have any special events coming up right now. Didn't you get some more another ticket to somewhere?
Oh, yes. I got a BB4E ticket. So that is Book Besties Forever. I remember today. And it's going to be in Vancouver. I'm very excited about this. I'm going to get to see H.D. Carlton. I know we just talked about Haunting Adeline and how you liked it, but it's not your thing. But I'm so excited because I think I read all of her books and I feel like I loves me a dark romance.
I was going to say, are all of their books dark romance or was
all of hers
Okay.
are pretty dark. But you know what? Somebody asked her, she was doing a Q&A on her Instagram the other day, and someone asked her what type of books Addie writes. And she said it's fantasy. And she said if she ever wrote a fantasy, she would do it under Addie's pen name. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
That is pretty cool because how often do we read about authors who have an author as a character in the story?
I know. Isn't that cool? So I thought it was interesting. But yeah, so that's one ticket I got. November 7th, I'm trying to get one to Rare London. But if I get the one to Rare London, this is what's kind of crazy about that. I would go to BB4E the end of July, and I would go to Rare London the beginning of July. So I'd be out of the country all of July. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. Don't make that face, Jazz.
I just think that I should come with, but that's all.
But you're remote, so you can actually do that and work anywhere, right?
Yeah, the only thing is London is 6 hours ahead of time. It just would be crazy to work. But luckily, my job has unlimited PTO. So I would probably just
Jazz's face.
Oh my God.
That's like a big thing in remote or tech now, and I think that's amazing. But also a lot of people that are working remote are either traveling a lot or even working in a whole different country, and I just think that's the dream.
Yeah, and I'm a part of both. I'm remote and tech, so
yeah,
it's a thing. Don't make that face, Jess. It's coming. When I was your age, I worked for the state and they paid me $12 an hour, and it was the worst experience of my life.
I'm just trying to be like you. I want to be like you when I grow up. That's what I need.
It's coming. It's coming. TBD.
I know.
You're on a roll with the tickets though, because this is so Rare London would be the third recently, plus the book signing you went to with Raven Kennedy.
Oh, I went to another one like that too, like the one I did for Raven Kennedy. Jazz, if you ever want to go to those, they do have a lot of local ones where it's just one author, and the tickets are $30, $16, and they normally give you a book for the author to sign too. But that's kind of what I did. I paid $16, got a paperback book, went and listened to her do her spiel, and she signed my book. But that was my second time meeting her. I think they have one for Penn Cole right now. She writes Spark of the Everflame. I don't know if you've seen that, but she's gonna be here in Frisco at the mall at Barnes and Noble in Frisco.
Oh, I can go there.
Yeah, but we haven't read that one, so I haven't went. But I did Jay Kristoff too. He'll actually be at BB4E too. I think he's Empire of the Damned. I haven't read those books, but my friend was just like, I love him. Let's go. I was like, okay, let's go. I love him too, I guess.
Y'all, they had a book conference here, and I was so excited because I live in Little Rock, and Little Rock is it's the capital here, but it's still a small city, so we don't have stuff like that. So I was so excited, but then I found out all the authors and books were nonfiction. I was like, I'll sit this one out.
Okay. Somebody was talking to me about reading the other day, and they were like, oh, so what kind of books are you reading? I was like, I kind of had to like pause because like, how do I tell them that like I went to? You guys remember my squishy penis when I went to the book conference and they gave like
Yeah.
like how am I supposed to tell you like, oh, really? It just be some crazy stuff going on in my books, like
Yeah.
like
I
this
try
one
to
girl was
just
being
keep it
stalked by
to
this guy, but they fell in love. Like there's just
yeah.
a little bit of stalking.
Yeah.
I try to keep it very vague and say either fantasy as a whole or like vampires and wars and werewolves and stuff like that. I don't ever just give them what's really going on because I don't want to scare
Okay, I always say
anybody.
nothing of substance. It's not like
Yeah.
self-help or anything like that. Like I read
Yeah.
pure entertainment purposes.
Literally.
You know what's real funny? My boss has been telling me that her daughter reads fantasy and she's been asking for recommendations. My YA list is like this big.
Yeah.
And so I was like,
Yeah.
oh, Legendborn, Divine Rivals, and that's it, guys. Because everything else I read, private parts are explained, exposed, and explored.
Explicitly.
Don't do it.
But yeah. So that is what I'm doing. I'm going to BB4E, but we have an arc, right? An arc that
We
just
do.
dropped.
It just came out on October 1st. It's called A Fate of Onyx and Ivory. I don't want to mess up the author's name. I think it's Aujane Brown. I hope she sees this so that she can correct me because I follow her on social media as well. But we read this. We got an ARC edition, so we read it before it actually came out. But I personally really liked it. I don't know if I would label it as like smut per se. At least not this book. It's a series, so there'll be books to come. But I really liked it. I thought it was kind of A Court of Thorns and Roses adjacent, if that makes sense.
I can see that.
But it's out on Amazon. I think she also just published the actual paperback or hardback version as well, if you don't want to do the Kindle version. So I wanted to give that shout out because I really liked it. I thought it was like a 4 out of 5.
That's dope. And also, she'll be at Book Harvest, as we were talking about book events. She'll be at Book Harvest 25 next year, October, and I'm pretty sure that one's in Boston. So,
and this is her debut book, so I thought that it was like amazing. This is her first book she's putting out, and I liked it quite a bit.
Oh, that's dope. I'm really excited about that. So today's episode, we are jumping back into Solaria. I feel like I live here now. I have an address in Takana. At this point, I just want to ask Jazz, what was it like for you going from book 1 to book 2?
For me, I was just ready to see like what the girls were gonna do because I knew they were like not just gonna let that sit. Like the heirs, they just try to kill Tori, and she is crazy and feisty, and I love her. And I knew that wasn't gonna just like go over. So like I was waiting, very excited to see what was gonna happen next for them and the heirs, for sure.
Because this is like your first time reading this series, do you feel like you are picking up clues or anticipating things before they happen, or does it all feel like new and shocking, or you can't predict the next thing?
Some things I have been able to predict, and I think we'll get into that later. But I've been really happy to like figure out like, oh, I was right about that, and then I get excited. But then sometimes I'm like, oh, yeah, I didn't see that coming like at all. So a little bit of both.
Okay. What about you, Ricki?
Yeah, I felt like book 1, obviously we see them being bullies, but both times around, the first read and this read, was that I've never been a fan of the bully romances. I always talk to people, even in everyday life, about date someone that actually likes you, because there's a lot that you deal with when you're dealing with somebody that either doesn't really like you or is not ready for that connection. And in this book, I think it was the latter. Those people weren't ready for those connections that were forming. But then just leave me alone until you're ready, And I think Caleb is the exception to that. Yeah, I think Caleb was the exception to that because he let it be known early that, I'm conflicted. I still have this duty, but I do like you, or at least like want to get to know you or whatever. But I think that was like my biggest ick of the beginning parts of this series in general.
Specifically who? Like, I guess without giving too much away, what were instances of things that just made you like, I don't like that. That's not funny to me.
Like Seth. like Seth and how he acted. So we know that he set her up, but at the same time, when you're going into book 2, then he's trying to. You're actually seeing that he kind of really still wants to be around her, but he did this to her, and Caleb. Not to say that he's completely absolved of it, but he at least like tried to make it. First of all, he tried to let her go with him so that she didn't have to deal with what they had planned. And secondly, he stood on the outskirts. He wasn't actually involved in the planning and the execution and all of that. Seth was very much involved and proud of what he did, only to then come into it and like, oh, but you're not going to forgive me, but know that I still have to do this though,
I think I'm always kind of taken aback by how everybody else seems duty bound to their stuff. Even Darius, like, no, he's not exactly nice, but he seems duty bound.
Yeah.
I think I'm always taken aback about like how cruel Seth just seems, like just straight up.
And Max, yeah,
like just straight up cruel. Because I think it's because we see. Well, specifically, I guess it's just for Tori. We see romantic connections or like blossoming between Darius and Caleb during this time. So like it seems like there is some conflict, but also we start getting boy POVs in this book, and I feel like that kind of starts changing things a lot. Immediately, it starts changing things so much because we learn about Darius's home life.
Yeah,
and that's
I do agree with that part. Yeah,
and that's like I think that kind of changed your perspective on Darius in general, because the first book I very much felt like, why is he so mean? Like, oh, he must not get enough hugs, and he shockingly does not get enough hugs.
Yes.
So it was interesting, like as a reread, to see how, like, especially because I don't know, I guess I can kind of say that it's not like a spoiler, but the awakening from the boys' perspective, I kind of know this rereading the book and what's going on there. So like finding things that like I was really upset about the first time I read it, and then seeing the other point of view, and I'm like, oh, I don't know how I feel now. Like that kind of thing. So let's talk about my favorite teacher, Orion. What are you thinking this book about him, Jazz?
I still like him. I liked him in the last book. I like him in this book.
Okay.
He's still like such a butthole, but like it's okay. But like I like that he's like getting more into like, Darcy and like actually, making that a thing. It's very dangerous and it's walking on a crazy line, but I like it. I do like it a lot. And then I like the relationship between him and Darius. Like, what is it? The guardian bond? Yeah. I do like that bond. It's really weird, but I like it for them.
Yeah, I feel like because the heirs have their own connection, that's the only way that it makes sense to tie Orion in it with his own, like, I don't know. He would never be an heir. You know what I mean? Like that's not even an option for him. So that's the only way he's like connected to the group. I think we get the introduction, like we've like established that there's an issue. You know what I mean? Like the throne thing. We've established that there's an issue that's probably going to be present throughout the series, right? But I also feel like this is our introduction to our big bad too. Like, like our overarching who is really the villain. Have you, Jazz, specifically, have you decided who the villain is?
I think Lionel is the villain. Everything about him is scary to me. I don't like it. I didn't like him the Ruthless Boys. It's him. He is the villain.
He's an Aries, right? Much like you.
Okay, wait a minute.
Not the Aries.
That's not like I am not the villain. He is the villain. He's crazy. Everything about that man. No, I can't. Everything about him makes me like itch and squirm, and I hate when he's brought up because I'm like, oh, something bad's about to happen.
What do you on your reread, Ricki, as Lionel is introduced more? What are you thinking? Like, how are you reading this with second eyes, I guess? Or in our case, third eyes, since we wear glasses.
I don't know that I have any different feelings about Lionel, because I mean, even the first read around and the second read around, I think it was evident that he was a problem. But I will say, I paid attention more to the other parents in the second read around because, we kind of see them kind of as antagonists as well because they're the ones pushing, or so we thought, they're the ones pushing their sons to treat the twins this way. But if you pay attention to all the other parents, with I guess the exception of Orion's mom, we see that they actually have semi-healthy relationships with their kids, like a parental relationship. Even from the first time they brought the twins up to the manor, to the Acrux Manor, we see that, they're actually greeted with love and stuff as opposed to Darius, who is just going in their own edge automatically,
Yeah.
Oh, and we also meet Xavier. What did you think of Xavier?
I love Xavier. It was kind of crazy that like he bonded with Tori, even though it was just like a little moment, but Darius really noticed that and he really liked that. But I like Xavier. And how old is he again? I can't remember.
He's not awakened yet. So we found out Darius is a Pegasus to the dismay of his father.
Xavier.
Yeah. And if I recall correctly, I could be wrong, but isn't he lilac? Of all colors?
Yes.
And I think he has like a rainbow mane or something like that.
And you know what's really funny about this to me? Like, he's like this vibrant, beautiful color. And if you go back to Ruthless Boys and we think about Gareth, he was basically the black horse of death. Like, like at least that could have looked scary, and Lionel might have been like, he's.
But that's what Darius said. He said he didn't even have the gift of being a darker color. He's like the prettiest Pegasus you could ever be.
That was so funny.
And speaking of Pegasus, it always makes me think of Sophia because one of my favorite things ever happened in the books, the getting high from flying in the rainbow. I just think that is like the funniest thing ever.
That was
super cute. I do feel like as we go on in this story, like, the whole Tori burns down I was about to say Darcy, but Darius's room as a form of their get back because they start planning their get back now. What I really have a conflict with is I feel like it's not clear who Diego likes. I feel like there's a lot of moments where you're like, Sophia, yes, Diego. And then when he talks to Darius, it's like, it's a crush, but also like, hey, bud, what are you doing there? Like, it's interesting, the dynamic. And also, like with Tori, Caleb, and Darius, we obviously have a love triangle situation brewing. And I feel like that's supposed to be conveyed also with Darcy and Orion and Seth. But
it's not.
It doesn't give the same thing, does it?
No.
At all.
Like, Seth is just kind of there. Like, he wants Darcy now, but like Darcy is like, no, I'm done with you. I'm done with you.
Yeah.
And and then Orion, like, she's like, Seth,
oh my God,
Orion.
And as a form of get back, so the twins are gonna leave at first, but then they decide their get back, which includes stealing Darius's gold, setting his room on fire, and obviously being investigated for it. Not just by the school, but by the FIB too. Or I said it right again, FIB.
You did.
But all that's happening. But I think it's important to note that what the specific get backs for each area is. So we have Darius. Dragons are in love with their gold. Is how they replenish their magic. They're super possessive anyway, but they're very possessive of gold. He could look at our glasses and be like, I know where that gold came from, what year, all that kind of stuff. If that was the case, or rings or any kind of jewelry, he would say these are cheap Claire's earrings, and he would be right. But but also we have Caleb starting to have the Pegasus rumor about him, which is hilarious when they drop the Pegasus sex doll in the room and he's trying to get it out the room, but it looks like he's getting it in instead. And it's posted on Facebook. He's not messing up words there. Everybody acknowledges that, right? But it's posted on Facebook, and to me, he's like very pretty boy, like always put together. So that kind of stuff is like a super deep dig for him, very much like how the gold thing is a super deep dig for Darius. But then we have Seth, we have talked about his tactile behavior repeatedly throughout the series, the touching, the hugging, all that kind of stuff, the licking of faces, even all that. that kind of stuff. So for him to get fleas, which top tier choice, okay, top tier choice. For him to get fleas and have to like scratch all that off, or and not be able to be around his other, his pack, I think top tier choice there. Now I want to compare Darcy and Max. They may have gotten the lesser of the problems. Like, it sucks that Max got Griffin poo on him and he has sensitive skin. You understand? But like, it doesn't feel as intense as what everybody else was going through.
That one only lasted like a day, and it went away. Like,
Yeah,
Seth was cut off from his pack for like weeks, and all he has wolfy needs, so like. And then Darius's room, he's a dragon. He's hot-headed. He was mad about that forever.
And he has to go deal with his dad afterwards about like, hey, by the way, they burned up my room, took my gold, and I lost control of my order. And his dad's like, yeah, I'll give you some gold. Let me beat you real quick. Like, like it's so much more that goes into that. I find it interesting, though, that Max has a lesser offense when he's one of, in my opinion, during the series, one of the biggest instigators.
For sure.
But you feel like his was lesser? I feel like his and Caleb's were very similar, because Caleb, yes, it embarrassed him, but what more was there?
Yeah, I agree. I can agree to that.
Yeah, I think it's just because of the way Caleb like handled the situation. Like, he could have just been like, "Oh yeah, I'm obsessed with Pegasus." Oh yeah, But like, he just made it a big deal and was like, "No, I don't." Blah blah blah. Like, okay.
Yeah.
So we get a ceasefire between Darius and Tori for the sake of going to this party that Darius's dad, Lionel, the true villain. Ooh, like, I like the true villain. We should moniker that for him, the true villain, especially for later in the series.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, Ricki? But like, the true villain, we should definitely moniker that for him. We get the ceasefire for Tori and Darcy to go to this event to meet the heir's parents. And the only way she agrees is if he helps her with her fire magic, which he was supposed to do and he hasn't been doing. So, Jazz, as this is happening, what are you thinking about the dynamic between Tori and Darius?
So, like, when he first like actually decided to help her with her magic, I was like, that's when it started like forming like the tension between them, like even more, and like they're like, yeah, there's something there, but like, nah, not really. We're not gonna allow that to happen, And then they get to the place, and like that's when Tori had that connection with Xavier, and I feel like that just made it happen more with Darius. Like, dang, I want you, but like I don't, because like that's wrong, But I was glad that they had that moment. Their connection and their relationship is really weird, but like I'm oddly enough, I'm here for it, Like, I like the drama that it has.
I think theirs makes the most sense, honestly. The whole like motorcycle thing, like,
when I found out about that, and when he was showing her, I was like, oh, like, wow, like she's gonna find out. Like, when she formed the bike and was telling him, like, oh yeah, I really like these. I was like, familiar with them back in the mortal world, and he was like, wow, he knows like I have a whole motorcycle collection, and then she finds out, and it was like, oh, how cute.
It's like, let me show you my motorcycle.
Literally.
Like, because I like
and I do think there's something to say about how Darius actually pays attention to that kind of stuff, because I don't think Caleb does at all. He's just forgive me and take me back, but I don't really feel like he takes the time to get to know what she actually like.
It's very carnal between them, for sure. Like, it's very, as we see at the party when he decides to hunt her, because he's been kind of taking a reprieve since they tried to kill her. I mean, he wasn't a directly involved party, but he's been taking a reprieve since that. But like, their connection seems very superficial, very just carnal. Like, just they want to smash. Like, that's what it is. And I think personally, I like seeing the conflict that crosses everybody. When I say everybody, I take that back, because I don't think there'll be any conflict for Caleb. People like, so you bet. Like, But for Darius and Tori, it very much seems like Darius wavers between, should I even care?
Yeah.
And I do care.
Yeah.
And Tori is like, is he gonna care or does he not care? Do I care? I think she's like kind of checking the temperature with everybody too. What I do find interesting is Caleb is kind of like knows, but he thinks it's more competitive, that kind of stuff. Yeah. But Darcy doesn't seem as concerned about it as the heirs are about Darius's involvement or Caleb's involvement with Tori. I find that kind of interesting.
Yeah. Darcy is always like, oh, I don't like that she's talking to the heirs or getting so close with them. But do you actually, I feel like she's just so focused on Orion. She loves her sister. She cares so deeply about her sister, but she doesn't actually know what's going on for her. You know what I mean? She is focused on Orion.
But I do think she picks up on it, and but I also think that she's seen Tori make these decisions in the mortal world when it comes to men. So it's just but
it's so much different now because these people, one, actually tried to kill her and are trying to always tormenting them and we want our throne. Okay, but so I just feel like it's different with them, and she's doing it with two of them, not just some other men in the mortal world.
I concur. So what else do we have going on? Oh, I feel like we got peak Geraldine in this one. Extra commitment with helping hide Darius's stolen goods with her earth magic, because Tori and Darcy suck still in their magic skills, not being able to. The things that aren't their dominant elements, we see them use way less, especially at the beginning of the series, in my opinion, like water. Speaking of which, when Marguerite asked Tori to help put out Darius's fire, and she decided to shoot her instead.
Yeah.
Peak Tori. Peak Tori. I guess what else I want to ask you about is Washer. I know that's really random, but the way he got Kylie to tell her feelings about Darcy, how she's insecure and intimidated by Darcy, and the fact that Kylie wasn't prepared. I find it interesting that everybody kind of picks on them for not having good mental shields, and pretty much the same thing happened to Kylie because he wasn't touching her. That was actually one of the few times that Washer wasn't being one of the very few times Washer wasn't being a creep. And I feel because I know what happens later in the series, I'm kind of looking for certain things now. Trying to see where alignments, especially amongst the adults, kind of lay, what things kind of bother them and what things are maybe them being manipulative to get things started. Because I feel Zenith explaining all the different types of bonds, for lack of a better term, the mate bonds, the astral adversaries, and what's the other one, the friend one?
I forgot the name of it.
Oh dear.
I know.
Oh no, we can't all forget.
Okay. We're gonna look it up.
We can't all forget. I know you've probably been better off searching it in your Kindle.
Something. Okay. Types of star bonds, right? That's what that is.
Yeah.
Why on earth would I remember all the other
Nebula ones? Allies? I knew it started with Nebula.
I was about to say because it's not alliteration like the other ones. Astro Adversaries, Elysian Mate. I guess Elysian Mates. Either. As we talk about this, I think we already know one dynamic where it happens, where they talk about you can be friends with somebody and it feels like it might be the Elysian Mate bond starting to form. I feel like the best example of that is how Darius and Francesca's relationship. She's the FIB agent. I don't know if you remember.
Orion?
Yeah,
Orion. Yeah.
You said Darius, and I was like, wait,
sorry guys, don't beat me up. Orion and Francesca's relationship, it goes, because to me it's very clear that she's in love. To me it's very, you know what I'm saying? It's
I was gonna say that's kind of sad because she actually feels, I think, more of a romantic connection than he does, obviously.
Yeah, I don't think we get, and it's not just because he doesn't feel anything for her. I think he described to Darius about it specifically that our signs don't match. We're good friends, but we'll clash too much. It's not gonna work. But I don't think she knows that.
I think what made it more sad is knowing how far this goes back, because we see her basically being his wingman back in Ruthless Boys when they were in college together.
Which was 5
So
years ago.
knowing that, so knowing that this has been going on this long and they finally have something because they're having sex, but they haven't established an actual relationship. I feel like maybe she felt like, finally it's happening, but Orion's still not there. So that's kind of sad.
And yeah, and not even just that, because think after everything's happened with the nymphs and everything like that, he calls Francesca his girlfriend. You know, later, I think I might be going into book 3 and everything like that. But he, when that guard starts questioning him a little bit, he even still says, Francesca is my girlfriend, that's my girlfriend. And he's like, she's not going to deny it. So I just think it's interesting to see that. Do either of you have other big moments you want to mention before we start getting towards the end?
Orion and Darcy.
Oh yeah, the pool.
In the pool.
Yeah.
While
we talked about them going to the manor.
Yeah.
Also, we get our first introduction into Stella. What do you think of Stella? Why you roll your eyes, Jazz?
Because why is she like that? No, I don't. I don't like that. And then after we also find out about Clara, right? The sister.
Yeah, and we meet Geraldine's dad. I love Hamish.
Yes.
And then I like Hamish. I don't like Stella. And then we find out more about Clara and what she did, and not completely what they did, but
who she is, more or less.
Yeah, and then the fact that she's a thing with Lionel, I already don't like it because I don't like Lionel, so I don't like her.
I think we found more about that out in book 3. I think it still was very vague still into what the connection was, but we do learn that Stella is with Lionel, and on top of that, the way she handles Lance is interesting. They're very much adversaries, for lack of a better term. She says she wishes Clara was still alive and he wasn't. He tells her, I wish my dad was still alive and you weren't. So they don't have a healthy mother and son bond. But I also want to kind of attribute that to the fact that they're Fae and they're power hungry, because even Stella sleeping with Lionel, I feel like it's kind of evident of that, because what's his wife's name? Catalina. Catalina is still she's right there. Clearly right there.
Yeah.
Within walking distance, right there.
Yeah.
Catalina may as well be catatonic because it's she's not there too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's
what can she really do? Lionel is crazy powerful, and she knows that he would just kill her. But
let's give her we got to give her dues, because she did protect her and Xavier.
Her baby.
Yeah, she said that she would, if something happened to her or to Xavier, that it would be published or whatever, and then everybody would know that it was Lionel. But
Speaking of publishing, Gus Belpecula or whatever.
I was gonna say that. Yeah, we have to talk about everything that happened at the manor, because I feel like it's
literally I feel like it's all relevant. And then we have to go back to Darcy and Orion. But for him to have those conversations with them and then just spin it. Now Tori has a sex problem. Darcy sees ravens. Where did the ravens even come
I still do not understand that. And honestly, I think I forgot that before my second read, because I was like, Raven all over again.
It was honestly hilarious to me. I was like, ravens? She talks to them?
Ravens was so crazy, right? Why ravens? To be fair, the sleeping around allegation is wild, okay? Whew. But if we was tracking my girl, she did kind of go have her little moment with Darius, and then she played that game with Caleb. Yeah. Then she came back to the party. I'm just saying, you went missing in different rooms with folks you ain't met, and you came back a little ruffled.
Yeah.
Your hair looking a little different. That's all I'm saying.
See, how you see how that in Tori with that rumor, she was just she owned it. She was like, yeah. And she just made jokes about it. But with the rumors with Caleb for the whole Pegasus thing, he was like, no, he got angry about it. And I'm like, maybe that's just because he is an heir and they don't want rumors like that being spread about them. But just go with it,
Hey, so Ricki, this will only apply to you. It won't apply to Jazz. I'm so sorry, Jazz. I still love you. Do you remember in Akatar when when Feyre made it to the bottom of the mountain, and there is always a stark comparison about that time she got along with Tamlin and what he did instead of what should have been done?
Yeah.
Do you see that comparison in the manner? Not in the same way, but just how like the
but yes, between Caleb and Darius. And yes, but that's why I said I don't ever feel like Caleb takes that time with her, even though he's the one saying that he's starting to gain feelings or whatever, and starting to not want to resist that. But I don't feel like he ever really did the work there. You know what I mean?
It was just attraction for sure. So let's go back. Let's spin the block on my least favorite person and my favorite person, because Libras unite. What are we thinking about Darcy and Lance? I feel like this is confirmation of a budding romance. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because like Darcy has her hair back by now because he gave her the information to go get the potion to create the potion for her to have her hair back, which, by the way, further proves that what she went through was definitely lesser.
Yeah.
And also, I want to kind of point out that like her conflict with the heirs is not similar to Tori's.
No.
Tori is conflicting with somebody that or people that she has potential romances with. They're not. Darcy's not experiencing that with Lance the same way.
Nope.
But I think that kind of goes back to what you were saying, Ricki, about like talking to people who like you. I think that's like a hard boundary for Darcy.
When I'm reading the book at this point, I first and second read around, I always see Tori being the victor and turning into a queen. You know, I know they're saying they don't want it right now, but just seeing how their personalities and all of the trials and tribulations they're going through and all of that, like to your point, I don't feel like Darcy went through the same trials that I feel like Tori went through. And, you know, their biggest gripe about them being here is the fact that they don't know how this world operates. Well, Tori is being exposed to that, in my opinion, more than Darcy is at this point. And so she's learning. She's put in situations where she has to use her power, like how Caleb reveals that she actually broke through the ice when it was only Max doing it, that it took two of them to try to hold her down. Those types of things, I think she's being tested for a lot more than Darcy is at this point. Like I'm rooting for, I don't dislike Darcy in the same way that you do, but I also don't see her as, I won't say a strong character, but I just don't see her as somebody that has the same mental capacity, like to overcome and stuff like that.
And also, maybe it's a character development thing. Maybe, because as our point earlier, Tori is a lot more hot-headed than Darcy is, and she probably needs to, like, I don't want to say this the wrong way. She probably needs to be refined more if she was gonna, you know, like. I don't want to say shaved down, but you know, almost like shaped more than Darcy does. But like, there's other times, like later in the series, where words are used to describe Darcy that I just don't see. I don't know if I would call her strong, not because she's weak. It's just like in comparison to whatever else is going on, it just does not feel the same. Like, you know, but I do think they're a good dynamic, regardless of how I feel about her. I do think they're a good dynamic because there's other things like when she went to detention, when they decided to leave at first and she had to go with the heirs to dig the hole and stuff.
Yeah.
Only Darcy could have been in that situation and not made it more abrasive.
Yeah.
You know, like Tori would have definitely started talking mess and made, probably intensified what was already happening.
Yeah.
Darcy is more of the liaison type, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Tori doesn't have a problem being the bad guy.
Nope.
So the pitball game, I feel like that is a big thing that happened. I have mixed feelings about this because I was kind of sad that they lost. And also, I wonder if we'll ever get a story about Starlight Academy because we had Aurora Academy already. What do you think Starlight Academy is? But anyway.
Because they seem like the big rival with them as far as the match goes.
But see, I don't think it was that big because Orion said they're not a top-ranked team, so we shouldn't be losing like this. We should be leading out the gate. And also, I wonder how Geraldine felt about this because she's losing. She's an actual player and she's losing, but she contributed to why they're losing. Max having his rash all over him. The heir's parents are there. Darius needs no other problems with Lionel, but here we are. Also, let's give a nod to my least favorite teacher, Washer, because he tried to tell them the nymphs were coming. He tried.
He did. And I forgot that in the first read around. I mean, the first time. So when I got to it, I'm like, he really tried to get everybody out of there.
Yeah. And him just being so like unserious. Everybody's like, bro, we don't believe you. Like
we got enough problems. Don't bring us no new ones.
We're losing the game, right? Like focus on the game. We don't care about no nymphs. Like
they got a little like a special box and stuff, so they had to sit up there with them. The parents got out of there pretty fast, you know?
They did.
Yeah.
They left expeditiously. I follow a girl on TikTok. Her name is Jade Lawson. And when I first did this read, I would kind of go, she does like from this page to this page within a book when she's reading it and kind of like reviews what she reads. And I watched that one recently when that was happening. One thing that she pointed out is that she felt like Lionel was connected to that because he left so fast afterwards.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And Tori had heard that weird phone call when she was at the manor. And I was like, I never picked up on that, but we'll see. Let me dog ear that a little bit, see what's happening.
It took me back to like the first attack. Like when they were saying like, oh, it was dragon fire, but they were saying that like, oh, it was just a nymph. But like, was it? Because everybody was like, it was dragon fire, but Darius said it wasn't him. So I was like, another dragon?
Well, the other girl is here now too. His cousin, his bastard cousin.
Yes, I did. I do remember
Angelica. Which, by the way, Geraldine and Angelica thinking, oh, I'm thinking of book 3, that their little prank by giving Tori diet.
Yeah,
that was hilarious. That was hilarious.
Like the mildest like pranking of the world, but we'll explore that more next episode.
Yeah.
But as the pinball game ends, this switch is flipped, and the girls say they're gonna try to prove that they're. I personally feel kind of conflicted about what I understood them to be saying and what they meant.
Yes.
Because they said they want to prove that they should have their throne, but they still kind of don't want it.
Yeah.
Like it to me it feels conflicting. What do y'all think?
I feel like it was conflicting too, because I feel like it's more about proving themselves and proving that they can overcome these obstacles than actually wanting the responsibility and all that comes with a throne. I do think they want their house, which is a castle, but that's about it. I don't feel like they actually want, like I said, at this point, the responsibility that comes with that. I do think, though, that they are seeing how serious it is in this, town and the stuff going on. And maybe they want to be a help in that and be strong enough to help with that, but not really understanding what all goes into that.
Well, speaking of castles, you made me think about this. When they showed up at Darius' house, Tori's like super impressed with like how big it is. And Caleb has to remind her, like, your house is bigger.
Yeah.
Reminds you, they were just sleeping on a couch together. You know what I mean? Pretty much. Like a fold-out couch bed. And they're like, my house. And he's like, yeah, the castle. Like, I do find it interesting that nobody has even took them to go see the castle or been like, hey, this weekend go look at the new house. Like they brought them there. Like they're going through a lot and not receiving a lot, in my opinion, even though Tori has been on hella shopping sprees from what it sounds like. You know what I mean? Like, but I feel like they really don't have anybody that is basically, until they start forming their relationship with Geraldine, they don't have anybody that's filling in gaps for them really, other than Sophia. And because she's so much lower on the totem pole, she can only do so much. It's not like she can be like, hey, take my friends to their castle. Nobody, you know what I mean? She doesn't have any kind of sway in that.
Yeah.
But also when they decide to fight the heirs at the game, and I found it interesting that they're always kind of ganged up on, but then this random Fae on Fae thing comes out, but it's never really like that to me. Like it looks like that rule applies only sometimes. Do y'all feel the same way?
Yeah.
Like I feel like it's a weird thing.
I think maybe it's because up until now, I think we've only seen them be ganged up on in front of other of their peers. But then when they're at the game, it's like Fae on Fae, because the media, their parents, everybody is there to see this now. And I think they want to be able to portray that we're still Fae, we're still following Fae rule. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But they lose. But it's okay. Yeah. My girls are still strong. They just lose a little bit, a lot of it in a hole. You know?
Yeah.
then Washer's prediction comes true, and everybody is attacked. Starlight and Zodiac Academy are attacked with this game by nymphs. What were you thinking as this was happening? Were you like, oh my God, I got to read this? Did somebody interrupt your reading, Jazz, while you were trying to finish this? I just felt like, did somebody interrupt your reading while you were trying to finish the end? I feel like every time something big happens, somebody is like calling or texting me, during like the big events when they happen.
No, nobody interrupted. I was just going through. I was like, ooh, what happened next? What happened next? What happened next? Oh my gosh. But no, I was like, it was crazy when the nymph actually got into the pit with them, and they had to fight their way out, and then they got out and they see like what all's going on, and they're like, oh, it's like they knew like that they had met one before like in that alley, but this is like their first time like seeing it, like what they're doing. And it's just like, whoa, that's a lot, And
if I recall correctly, I want to say this is Darcy's like third encounter with the nymph, because remember, after they left the classroom, she had to go back.
Yeah.
When she was being pleasantly followed by a handsome lad. That I want to say that's Darcy's third encounter. Maybe that's like where her trauma is, and we're just not giving her enough credit. But also, let's talk about Darius and Tori again.
I was thinking about that because I went back to like the class where she was talking about, the star bonds, and Tori saved Darius and Darcy saved Lance, and then I'm pretty sure they like switched it again, and then they each saved, I think Lance. Did Lance save Darcy? I can't remember.
I'm pretty sure they did at one point because he had his dagger, which, by the way, I think it's important to note that Tori stole that dagger from Darius, and it's clearly calling to her, and she doesn't know what it is. She took something very much like if something floats up from the ocean and it looks like it should stay in the ocean, you should have left it in the ocean.
Yeah.
Like, that's the kind of vibes the whole situation with Tori gives me, like, girl, leave that there. Also, she cried a little bit. She don't know that man like that. He tried to kill her. Why she crying?
Yeah.
When Tori saved Darius, it made me think about the star bond. Like, is this like their test? Is this one of their tests? I was like, hold on. Made me think something else.
So they have a special fire, and so it's not just dragon fire killing them. Whatever the twins have, because we do not find that order out in this book, unfortunately. Whatever the twins have is important, an important type of fire. I also very much like that it's blue and red. Hear me out. I feel like that perfectly describes Tori and Darcy. Yep. With Darcy being blue and Tori obviously being more fiery. And it's I feel like they kind of embody that whole Gemini thing a little well. Would you agree, Ricki, since you're a Gemini? Would you agree?
I do. But
the Gemini and I'm the Aries. It's fine.
And so Jazz has noticed, but I'm married in Aries.
I love it.
So here we are.
No problem. No problem.
But yeah, I do. But what I find interesting isn't the blue fire in reality, not in fiction, but isn't the blue fire actually supposed to be the hottest? So
I know that from my Hank Hill days. I watch King Hill.
I just always thought that was, and up until this point, they see that fire, they see that they obviously have an affinity for this element, and everybody just assumes that they're going to be dragons. And I don't understand, because hydras also have fire, right?
I would assume so. Since we haven't seen one, I feel like hydras do have fire, though, just from, like, don't judge me, watching Hercules as a kid. I feel like
right, that's kind of what I was thinking about. So I wonder why they don't assume that they're going to be their dad's order at some point. They never actually allude to them.
They mentioned something about that in the book. They said because he have a pure bloodline, but also how would he have a pure bloodline if he was the last one? What else would he have done?
Exactly. Yeah.
So that makes no sense to me personally.
I was excited for them to come out and be a Hydra, even though it's not the greatest, looking order. But it's just the fact that Cerberus.
There you go.
Yeah. And I have another book of Cerberus, the Cerberus order. It's with Stephanie Hudson, The Afterlife, but one of the spinoffs.
The one I'm supposed to listen. I'm gonna get there. I'm not gonna lie to you. Zodiac Academy is killing me right now on the fantasy tip.
And I think she kind of alluded to another book. So I'm super excited about that. Not from the ones that I've already read, but like another storyline. So I'm excited about that.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Very much so. So Tori and Darcy save everybody, but Seth does lose a pack member, Rip Ashanti.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, we can talk about, why you make that face? Because what are you thinking about?
Because the only time we see Ashanti is when she's giving him head randomly, and like in this orgy with Seth. And so like I felt bad because obviously it's a pack member. Obviously that she has friends. Okay, but she has a family. I feel bad for anybody that lost their life, but as a character, we only see her. Yeah,
very much so. And we also see that though Kylie is jealous of Darcy, she does not treat the pack members. She gets jealous, but she's not vocal about it. I wonder if that's like because the twins are novice. I don't want to say weak because that's not the right word to describe what they are. They're novice to their worlds.
Yeah.
Or whatever. If she just feels like Darcy is an easier target because I can fight you. But like it's very much poking the beast if you ask me, because she's gonna figure out. She already knows that she's stronger than you, but she's gonna figure out how to, manipulate or use her powers. And one day you're not gonna be able to do that, girl.
Mm-hmm. And I like that the girls have figured this out too. Like they keep telling the boys, like, y'all can do this for so long, but at some point, we're gonna be on the same level as you guys, and we have more powers than you, so it's inevitable.
Darius told Tori, like, my dad is one of the most powerful. Is like the most powerful. Blah blah blah. And she was like, no. He used to be.
Yeah.
We are. So I bet you he'd be like, Darius probably heart be like beating like, oh my God, I love you. Oh my God, you're gonna get us out. Because you don't know how to act, So but yeah, we have all this happen. Tori and Darius have a very, like, he almost dies and she cries and shares her power with Lance to save Darius because he's clearly about to die too because of their guardian bond. And then we have Darcy and Lance sticking together, figuring it out, over there basically dance fighting. That's like when y'all have a coordinated thing, you don't know what's happening. You don't know how you got coordinated, but it's like
I watch anime. I know what dance fighting is.
I was saying it for the viewers. I expect you to know. I feel like that's everything pretty much in this book. Does anybody have anything they want to dog ear, flag, or bring up so we mention it for the next one?
I don't think so. I think we hit all of the key points. Jazz, do you have anything that was like a big moment that you think we missed?
Did we ever talk about the kiss in the pool?
No.
Barely.
I mean, but it just was a kiss in the pool, though, wasn't it? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what more is there? I guess we could talk about the fact that, like, it happened and then they were very much like, this can never happen again.
Yeah.
As
like, that ever is the case.
Yeah, it's like when we're down here in this water, we can have everything, but when we up there, we can't. And see, my problem would have been like, get me out of this pool. This is scary. Yeah. You know what they did to my sister in the pool just a book ago? No, take it out.
But I thought it was just crazy that Lance was the one that like started it. He was like, I have feelings for you. Like
I don't, because think about the way he treated her when they were in detention. He like gave her water and didn't give nobody else water. He got her hair back from Seth. Like all this happened prior to all of that. Like,
oh no, but I just didn't think
he saved her. He saved her from Seth and then held her a little too long and a little too close.
It's true. It's very true.
He helped her get her hair back. Like, and I don't mean her hair off of Seth's arm. I mean her hair back. So like
we see signs of it, but I do think that was like the climax and the, like you said, them confirming that there's actually something there.
I think that we have covered everything for Ruthless Fae. I'm excited to go into book 3 and see what you guys were thinking, how everything went. But I'm gonna say that this is the end for us, unless you guys have something to add.
No.
I'm sorry, you ladies. All right, so I think this is the end for us. We're gonna continue to delve into Solaria and Zodiac Academy, because this is very much only the beginning. I would like to think that like this is really just setting us up for the overarching bigger story as we continue. Like this is just very foundational. But thank you so much for listening to us. It's too literal. And Jess, thank you for coming as usual. We appreciate that. So you can give us your input. Ricki, thank you for being here too. You're the best co-host ever. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Answer our poll questions. And bye.